Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right on into the presentation here. So just to begin, just to give everybody a little bit of background, so the diet industry is really, big business. As you can see here, the total U.S. Weight loss market grew an estimated 4.1% in 2018 from $69.8 billion to $72.7 billion. And it's forecasted to grow 2.6% annually through the year of 2023. And in 2023, that means, if it does grow by that percent, it'll be around $82 billion. So that's a lot of money that is spent in the diet industry. And so, what that means to me is that there are a lot of people out there kind of searching for that magic weight loss formula, and they're willing to spend a lot of money to get there. So as I said, we're going to discuss a little bit about the pros and the cons of different kind of the top diets, not every diet, of course, but some of the most popular kind of fad diets. So I'm definitely, not endorsing a specific diet, and I'm also not trying to cast a negative light on diets as a whole. I just want us to discuss kind of the facts around the different diets and just have a conversation around really what they all have in common. There's a few things that they all have in common. So we'll get started. The keto diet is a fairly popular diet. I think probably most everyone's heard about it. So some of the guidelines around that diet is that you're going to eat mostly healthy fats, which should be about 75% of your daily calories, a moderate protein intake, which is about 20%, and minimal carbs, so less or no more than 5%. And you're supposed to choose lower carb foods such as grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, eggs, leafy vegetables, and high-quality fats. And so as we go through each one of these diets, you'll see that I've made bold and underlined things that they all will have in common. And so the pros of the keto diet is that it can promote the intake of healthy fats. We know that we need a certain amount of healthy fat in our diet, also vitamins and minerals. And another pro is that you may stay satiated longer due to the high fat and protein intake. When we are having a meal, protein and fat are the two things that will help us stay fuller for longer. So that can definitely be a pro. Some of the cons around keto is that it requires some fairly extreme food tracking. As you can see, they're pretty specific about the percentages of fats and protein and carbs. And so you would have to do some food tracking there. Additionally, the nutrient deficiency and constipation could occur since it's very low in fibrous foods such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Next up, we have the paleo diet. I'm sure that probably most of you have heard of that one as well. The guidelines for this is that the followers of this diet emulate the dietary pattern of our ancestors by emphasizing fresh foods and avoiding processed foods. Legumes, dairy, and grains are excluded. So again, the thing that these keto and paleo have in common are the fresh foods and staying away from the processed foods. Some pros of paleo is that it can promote the intake of healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals from the fresh foods. Some of the cons is that what exactly paleo means can differ from person to person. It also excludes legumes, dairy, and grains, which means that people may not be getting enough fiber, calcium, or vitamin D in their diet. Another popular diet is the Whole30. The guidelines for this is that for 30 days, people are encouraged to cut out grains, dairy, legumes, alcohol, and added sugars and sweeteners from their diet. So some pros around this is that you're promoting eating whole foods with few ingredients, which is a good thing. It doesn't focus on a calorie intake the way a lot of fad diets do. Some cons around this one is that it's supposed to help you identify foods that may bother you. So you can think of this sort of as a self-administered elimination diet. And by completely cutting out grains, dairy, and beans, you may be missing out on some important nutrients. And really, unless you have an allergy or a sensitivity to those food items that they're asking you to cut out, there's really no medical reason to eliminate them completely. And I think another con of this diet is that it's quite restrictive as well. And a lot of times we see issues when we become really restrictive around a diet. Another popular diet is called the IMF, which is the intermittent fasting. This one's, I think, gotten fairly popular over the past few years. And kind of the idea behind it is that you're alternating periods of eating and fasting and can increase your body's resistance to stressors and slow your metabolism. And there are lots of different ways to go about the intermittent fasting. The most common is the 16-8, which is 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating. And so kind of what that looks like is generally you stop eating at a certain window at night. Let's say it's 8 o'clock. And then you fast for 16 hours, and then you have an open 8-hour window of eating. So that's kind of how that works. Some of the pros around that is that, during this eating window, you're encouraged to eat more fruits, vegetables, and other health promoting foods, which can kind of keep you, if you're eating within a window, it kind of keeps you from that grazing kind of all day thing that we do sometimes. Some of the cons around it is that it also is a very restrictive diet and can lead to binging during those eating periods or those eating windows. Also, our bodies begin to adapt to these periods of starvation. And when our bodies kind of go into that mode of starvation mode, it actually will begin to burn fewer calories. Our bodies can sense that we're not getting maybe enough nutrients, and so it will stop burning calories. So that can be a bad idea around this diet. Also, it says while the fasting has been shown to be beneficial in animal studies, its benefits to humans are negligible. So that's kind of the research around this intermittent fasting. So this diet, the Mediterranean diet, I'm sure you probably all heard about this one as well. And it really is one of the diets that, if you're going to look for a diet to kind of follow, this one can be very good. It follows the traditions of some of Mediterranean countries by focusing on olive oil, which is, considered a healthy fat, vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, beans, whole grains, and some dairy products. So you can see that there's not a lot of restriction in this diet. So some pros are it's low in saturated fat and involves a lot of fresh foods since it requires you to cook your own meals. And studies have shown that it can help prevent everything from diabetes to cardiovascular disease to cognitive decline. Some of the cons, of course, is that you must have these fresh, whole ingredients on hand in order to make your meals. So what I kind of wanted to talk about now is just what all these diets have in common, and also what it has in common with what you've been learning with regard to prediabetes. And so what we teach in the type 2 or prevent to type 2 diabetes sessions is that we give you a guideline of what your plate should look like. And to the right here, you can see an example of that. And all the diets, as well as this guideline, have, these things in common. Most of them want you to eat fresh, whole foods. And so fresh vegetables should be about 50% of your plate if you're trying to follow this guideline. You can see also that the lean protein is about 25% of your plate. And you can see as well, starchy vegetables or whole grains are about 25% of your plate. Other components of what we teach from the type 2 diabetes standpoint is that we want you to try to drink water, a lot of water, instead of sugary drinks with your meals. We want you to include healthy fats, which generally is how you are maybe cooking or preparing the things that you're eating. It also can be things like avocado. It could be something around like fish. Salmon, for instance, has a lot of great healthy fat in it. And then also you can include a small portion of fruit, which can really be satisfying if you have a sweet tooth. So kind of the bottom line, I feel, when we're talking about diets is that a diet is definitely not a one-size-fits-all, black and white kind of thing. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. And also it can promote guilt from the standpoint, you can kind of beat yourself up when it's hard to stick to, and that can promote guilt because you can feel kind of like you're failing if you're not able to stick to the diet, and that's not a good feeling to have. Secondly, restriction generally does not work over time because we will run out of willpower. So as we went through some of those top diets, restriction was a big piece of most of them. And so that can be sort of the downfall in a lot of diets, is that they're fairly restrictive. And that's not really how our minds work. I don't know about you, but as soon as I'm told I can't eat something, that's generally the thing that I crave and focus on. And so that can be a difficult piece of a diet, is when it's very restrictive. When we begin to eat for our health and not appearance, eating food that promotes our health and well-being, that's important. And so I think that's really what we strive for in our program, is that we want you to begin following certain guidelines. So you're eating for your health. You're going to eat so that you feel better. And that really promotes health and well-being. When you feel compelled to diet for weight loss, you're more likely to have an unhealthy relationship with food. And that can be very true for a lot of people when we are so focused just on the weight loss piece and not necessarily on adding quality ingredients to our diet, or quality calories to our diet. We can get real fixated on the weight loss piece, and that we can kind of begin to have an unhealthy relationship. So we want to be eating for health. That's the most important piece. And when we eat for health, the natural side effect will generally be weight loss over time. We talk about it a lot in our program that healthy weight loss is a slow process. And that's good and that's okay, because that is generally where we see the lifestyle change, habit changes when they're slower, when we take a little bit more time. And so it's a good thing to eat healthy, eat for our health, and take our time with regard to the weight loss piece of it. And so what I would like for you to just keep your focus on when it comes to what you're eating, or any diet that you give a try, is that you focus mainly on eating those whole foods, mostly plant-based, because we definitely want at least half of our plate to be vegetables, and we see great benefits when we do that. And then lastly, just cooking at home. That's a big piece of all this, and trying to limit the times that we're eating out. That way we are controlling our ingredients, we're controlling the quality of the calorie, and we're controlling our portion sizes, which definitely play a part in our diets as well. So here are my parting thoughts. That we achieve good health through consistent behaviors, something that we do on a daily basis. And so this is, definitely the Prevent T2 program. We're going to focus on eating whole foods, mostly plants. We're going to watch our portions. We're going to make sure that we're spending time, at home, which means, there's some planning that might have to take place. Getting to the grocery store, or, having groceries brought to our home. Exercising daily, very important piece, consistent piece. Making sure that we're managing our stress, making sure that we're getting adequate and quality sleep, and of course, staying properly hydrated. And all of those, of course, are part of the program that you're a part of, and that we've been discussing since you probably began your program. So that's really all I have today with regard to the diets and kind of deconstructing. So now I thought I'd leave us some time here at the end for you to ask any questions that you might have. And I'm gonna look, let's see, looks like we do have a question. Why would reducing metabolism be a goal of some diets? Doesn't this mean that? Yes. So yes, and reducing metabolism is not the goal, definitely not the goal of the diet. It can just be a side effect, unfortunately, to some of these diets, is that it does get reduced. But no, reducing your metabolism is definitely not a good thing. So can you define what is meant by whole foods again? Absolutely. So whole foods are foods that are not processed. So I'm mainly talking about non-processed foods. So foods that, think ingredients, it's ingredients, not you go to the store and you buy ingredients for something that you're going to make. Those are the whole foods, not something that you buy in a box or a package. Generally, whole foods are things that you're going to find in the perimeter of your grocery store. So trying to shop in your perimeter of your grocery store. So I'm thinking, vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, dairy, that sort of thing.